Yes.
Okay, I have a question about crime fiction as a whole. I think that recently, more and more books I read are sort of written in a way that you carry it with you as a reader afterwards. It takes up very serious problems, and it's never a solution that's completely satisfying. I just recently finished a couple of Roslund and Hellström's books. I have books about prostitution and Gatubarn, children on the street from Romania, showing up in different countries, and a lot of things that's really, really hard to read about. And it's just, it sort of opens up the discussion in a way. It sort of takes serious problems we have in the world today and just puts it out there for us to see. And I just want to know what you think about that. Is that something that you feel or that you want to do yourself, or you feel that you do? Thanks.
In terms of resolution or no resolution in the stories to these big issues?
Yeah, you can see, you find, for example, the murderer of the victim, but you do not solve the entire problem.
Right. Yes.
So you know who did it, or you know who did it, but they're not able to put them into jail or things like that.
This is very interesting that you bring up Roslund and Hellström. These are good friends of mine. They're published at my publishing house. Their first book is about a child being tortured to death by a pedophile. So I mean, they break all the rules all the time, and they have horrible, horrendous books sometimes, and but very, very, very good ones. And I know that we've had seminars together, and I know that it is that's why they're doing this. They want to break taboos. They want to discuss these topics. I mean, well, John used to be in jail, forever, but now he's a therapist and he helps young kids with these problems, and he's a very successful author. So I know that these two guys definitely want to bring these issues into the open and discuss them.
Well, to add to that, I think that even crime fiction, which sort of promises answers and solutions, don't necessarily have to have all the answers, because, I mean, life doesn't have all these answers, and I don't think that literature, be it crime or genre fiction or general art fiction, they can present problems or questions or matters to think about, but I don't think that novels always have to contain, the absolute answer. I think the great thing about a novel is to invite you as a reader to think and maybe make your own answer. So I kind of like books with open endings, and it doesn't, all the answers aren't presented. It leaves you, the reader, perhaps a bit annoyed at the writer, because as a human being you want, all the solutions and answers. But in the end, I think that the novels that are most satisfying are the one that leaves you pondering and perhaps a bit angry with the writer because he or she didn't really give you all the right answers.
This might be typical for Scandinavian crime fiction, that the crime is being solved, but not the problem. The problem is still in the society.
Yeah. And I mean, just to speak up for my own work here, I hate resolution in these stories, and I actively work against it in my books. It's kind of odd, but I think what the reader wants is satisfaction at the end of the story. I don't know that they actually want a resolution so much. It just has to feel like you've told the story and the story has concluded in some satisfying way. And in my second novel, the villain is discussed through the whole book and never appears until the last page of the book. When he appears, as someone else, but you know that's the villain. And he walks away at the end, completely scot-free. And I found that very satisfying to write. And even though I'm sure some people said, well, that's just horrible. It was like, sorry, but man, that felt good to write that at the end. I'm not condoning it or anything. It was just like, you know, as a writer, it's like, yeah, that was a satisfying conclusion to that story. Anyway, yes, sir?
Yes, I have two questions. The first one is, are you ever influenced by American crime novelists like Michael Connelly and Tony Hillerman? And the second question is, how much are you influenced by Stieg Larsson and how much did his death or his influence push the popularity of the crime novel in both of your countries?
It's funny, we were almost going to get through this without a mention of Stieg Larsson. I can't believe it.
But we were talking about my family.
Yes, we were.
And they are all great fan of his books. No, it's not hardly.
Oh, yes,
but in person, I don't think the Scandinavian crime literature have any impression from my family or not my books have just messed up.
Are there particular writers that have influenced you that you really see the impact they've had on your style? Or?
Not the Americans, but we were talking earlier about Sherlock Holmes. But no, not from America, no.
Is there a lot of American crime fiction in Scandinavia?
Not so much anymore.
You guys have taken over.
Actually, yeah.
Good.
I'm not as much the topics, but I've learned a lot from Stephen King. Of course, my two first novels were actually horror novels, but his way of composing novels, when I wrote my debut novel, I actually analyzed my favorite King novel, which is called Salem's Lot, which is not so very famous. But I analyzed it in detail because it was an extremely complex story. And I wanted to know, how does he weave so many story threads together and make it into a whole? So, although I don't write horror anymore, and I don't really write in the Stephen King kind of colloquial language, I have learned a lot from him about composing, about plotting, so the basic structure of composing a complex novel. Of course, I mean, most of us, even if we are conscious of it or not, are influenced by, I mean, Edgar Allan Poe or all the older American writers, and we read most of the contemporary ones, of course, but I do think that Scandinavian crime perhaps is more influenced by British and Scottish crime more than American.
I was thinking about the Stieg Larsson question because I'm in the same situation as Tom with Dan Brown. My protagonist is a journalist, the heroine is being raped, and it's about men's violence against women. That's what my books are about, but thank God I was, 5 years before Stieg Larsson. But obviously his success has opened up numerous doors for all Scandinavian writers, I would say, not just crime writers, but all writers, because his success was completely unheard of. Before Stieg Larsson, less than 1% of literature in the US was translated. Now it's a lot more. I can't be even 1.5% or something. Yeah.
Well, also about Stieg Larsson, you have the publicity machine. A Norwegian colleague of Jorn and I called Jorn Lier is now breaking through in England and America, and he is dubbed the new Stieg Larsson, which is complete rubbish. There, I can see no similarities except that they are both from Scandinavia between their literary projects. But of course, it's a very effective tagline for a publicist to present the new Stieg Larsson. But it's just words, because they have no merit. They are both great authors, but their literary landscapes are so different, and what they write about and how they write it is so different. So I get a bit annoyed at the industry because they make up such silly.
Like a new Dan Brown.
Yeah. Which is also annoying.
Frankly, not to put too fine a point on it, but I think that the success of Stieg Larsson is largely based upon, this is the success, not the quality of or any kind of critical interpretation, it's the girl who. Right? I mean, because you know, in series stuff, I mean, it's always like the city of, and then like call your second book the city of something else, you know, and whatever. And it's like the girl who is like so brilliant that it just captivates people's imaginations. And there's a little something weird about the fact that they're getting away with the girl.
You know the Swedish title to the first book? No. Men Who Hate Women.
Ah.